If you've ever found yourself sobbing in the dark at 2 a.m., wondering why your baby won't sleep and why this feels so much harder than you thought it would, this episode is for you. Today's guest has been there. We're talking about what it's really like to go from confident and capable to completely unraveling in early motherhood and how she found her way back. Oh, and she just happens to be the sleep expert that thousands of moms turn to for help now. Welcome to Mom's Guide to Finding Herself, where we share stories of side hustles and surviving while parenting young children. I'm your host, Chrissy Bold. Let's make motherhood less lonely and help you find joy in being you again. No one tells you how disorienting those first few months can be. Like, 1 minute you're pregnant and you're so excited, you feel super prepared, and the next you're staring at a baby who just won't sleep. You're wondering what you're doing wrong and where that version of you who used to feel confident went. That kind of unraveling is exactly what today's guest went through. Rachael Shepard-Ohta is a mom of 3, host of the podcast No One Told Us, and founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, where hundreds of thousands of parents go for gentle, attachment-focused sleep support. But before all of that, Rachael was a first-time mom feeling completely thrown, navigating a high-needs baby, postpartum anxiety, and the slow, disorienting shift in who she thought she was. In this episode, we talk about her messy, emotional road into motherhood, how her identity changed, how she rebuilt her confidence, and yes, how sleep struggles became a turning point in all of it. But this isn't just about sleep. It's about what happens when the version of motherhood you imagine doesn't match the one you're living, and how you find yourself in the middle of it. Rachael, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to get to know you as a mom because I know you are one of the realest people on Instagram, where you just want to show everybody that we are not alone, that there is nobody out here that's special and getting it real. So let's get into it with, who were you before you became a mom?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny because I think like my immediate response to that is, oh, I was a teacher. And that's not who I was. That's just what I did for work, which is so interesting. Answering that question is always so funny. But yeah, I just a little bit about my background, I guess. I grew up on the East Coast. I'm born and raised in Connecticut, and then moved out here right after grad school. I live in San Francisco now, and met my husband, who's from here, and we love to travel, and we did a lot of that before we had kids. And my husband's a social worker. I was a teacher, like I mentioned, and so we kind of just have always been in the business of like people, right? And kids in particular, at least for me. And I always wanted to have kids. I have always loved kids. I used to babysit and stuff like that. And so after getting married, we actually had kids very, very quickly. And yeah, just it's like hard to remember who you are before.
Isn't it like you go through this whole thing?
Actually, I don't know. Because it's been like my oldest is almost 8, so it's been a long time. Yeah.
Right. And your whole identity changes. You have all these new interests and all these new pieces, and some of the old ones, sure, but a lot of things got let go. So tell me about your transition to motherhood.
Yeah, it was tough. Like I said, I always loved kids. I had always worked with kids and with families, and thought that I was super prepared. I was always like a baby person, just loved babies. And my first was super high needs, very colicky, very sensitive. I had postpartum anxiety, and it was just really hard. It was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And that really kind of like shook my confidence then on top of everything, because I had this idea of how I would be, and it was so different. So yeah, it was definitely a tricky transition. Even, I am someone that has lots of resources, and I had lots of support, and it was still hard.
Right. As a social worker, as a special educator, you are so used to being a problem solver, or at least a step taker, right? You at least know what steps to take to help people to resolve those problems. So having your first child be like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this is not what I expected at all. That must have been just like earth-shattering.
Yeah, it really was. And I was kind of the first of most of my friends to have a baby too. So I really didn't have many like examples or friends to look to say like, is this normal? Did you feel like this too? And like I mentioned, my first was born 8 years ago. So even social media was very different. You didn't have all of these pages now that exist to kind of normalize these things for moms and share, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so it was just very isolating too. I felt very, very alone.
Right. And I know you talk a lot about how you felt like you were doing everything wrong, that we were hearing that. So I'd love to hear your experience battling that, feeling like just nothing was going right and you must be the problem.
Yeah. I mean, so like I mentioned, my son was very quote unquote colicky and
whatever that means, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is like not even really a thing.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of issues with feeding. He had a tongue tie, and so breastfeeding was really difficult. Yeah. We had a lot of trouble with sleep. And that's what kind of kickstarted my journey into what I'm doing now. But yeah, like, I mean, that's pretty much all babies are doing, right? They're sleeping and eating. So if those things are both really difficult, then you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm not doing anything right. Like this is just so much harder than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, and I think, you know, your relationship changes, your friendships change, like all of these things just happen all at once, and it just can feel like a lot.
Right. Did you go back to work after having your first?
I did. So he was born in October. Yeah. And so I took maternity leave like through the holiday season and then went back. I believe he was 4 months at the time, 4.5 maybe. And so, yeah, I went back at that point and had to do the whole like pumping thing and just was so sad. I remember so clearly, just sitting, rocking him to sleep the night before I went back and just sobbing, just absolutely, I was inconsolable. I couldn't stop crying. I was just so upset. It felt so early to go back, and even 4 months is longer than a lot of people get.
Right.
So luckily my husband got actually a way better paternity leave package than...
Wow, that's unusual.
Yeah. I mean, I was a teacher, so like we don't technically get anything. I had to
just your sick days.
My sick days. So I was like, you know, that's bottom of the barrel. Yeah. And he worked for the city of San Francisco, which actually had a pretty generous policy. Great. So he was able to take off the following 4 months, which basically got us through to summer break. So then I was able to be home again for the summer vacation from teaching. And then he started daycare that following fall when I had to go back for the following school year.
Okay, great. So that's so tough because you're already feeling like you can't feed him. You're already feeling like he's not happy and he's not sleeping. And now you have to wake up and get to work and do all the things. Was pumping at least easier for you?
Pumping was a little bit easier. And actually, once we got all of his feeding stuff figured out, we actually had a great breastfeeding journey. You know, kind of combo feeding with breastfeeding and pumping. So yeah, that was at least good. It just took us a long time to figure it out. We figured out that he had a tongue tie, which needed to be addressed. And then he also had a cow's milk protein allergy. So I had to give up dairy, which was horrible because I'm Italian and I love my cheese.
The things we do.
I know, that was really hard. That was like my biggest sacrifice so far in motherhood. But yeah, so once we got all of that figured out, by the time I was going back to work, feeding was actually going much better. And yeah, so that at least was one piece that kind of fell into place at the right time.
That's great. So did you learn really quickly about the tongue tie, or was this something that you had to really advocate and dig into?
So all of my kids have had tongue ties, and since he was the first, I had never even heard of it before. I had literally never heard of it, and feeding was really painful. Like I was just crying, like white knuckling every time he would latch, and I was like, this can't be, because I had taken a breastfeeding class, so I was like, this can't be normal. Like I don't think it's, I know it's maybe uncomfortable at first, but like it's not supposed to be excruciating pain. And he also, like I said, seemed very unhappy right after feeding. So I called a lactation consultant, actually the one that I had taken the breastfeeding class from, which is something I recommend now to all new parents. Like don't just take a breastfeeding class, but like get that person's number in your phone, because you don't want to be looking up lactation consultants in your area when it's an emergency, when you like actually need somebody right now. You want to have that person already on speed dial. So anyway, so I called her and she came and she, you know, weighed him, did an exam, like looked at us feeding, all of that stuff. And then she looked at his mouth and she was like, so he has a tongue tie. And I was like, what's that?
Right.
And, you know, IBCLCs can't formally diagnose. They just see it all the time. So she sent us to a pediatric dentist, and then we kind of went from there with the revision. And it's been a very long journey for him because it wasn't done properly, unfortunately. So we're kind of paying the price now with lots of orthodontia and myofunctional therapy.
Oh
And
my gosh.
that's a tale for another time. Luckily
No
with
kidding.
our girls, luckily with our two next kids, with our girls, it was much more successful and
Good.
it was all fine. But yeah, that's just like one of those things that you'd never think you're going to have to deal with. It's just like not something even on your radar before you have a kid.
Right. And it just adds up. It all adds up. Now, we all know it's no secret that sleep was an issue for you when you first had your baby. So can you tell us a little bit about your individual sleep journey? Or I guess his. It's not yours. Your sleep journey was different.
They're very intertwined.
Yes.
It's so funny now because I know that his sleep was actually quite normal. Yeah. And, you know, he would wake up a couple times a night. He'd want a feeding. He'd go back to sleep. And that was very normal. But the messages that I was getting from my pediatrician, from, you know, people that would just ask how he was sleeping. And I would say, oh, yeah, we were up a couple times last night. And they'd look at me like with such pity and horror. I'd be like, oh, I guess that's a bad thing. I guess that must be wrong. And all the messages I got said that I should sleep train. And I was really worried about going back to work and him not sleeping for anybody else. You know, we had like our little rhythm and he would take contact naps with me and I would put him down sometimes. And like we had kind of figured it out. And I was just really nervous that my husband wouldn't be able to do it, or, you know, my mother-in-law wouldn't be able to do it, or daycare wouldn't be able to do it. And so I've just felt this immense pressure to get him to sleep independently. So I did try sleep training. I bought like one of those very popular sleep training programs online that I found, again, not through Instagram because that wasn't really a thing. I think I just Googled it or somebody sent it to me or something. And my pediatrician recommended it and everything. And it was just like such a traumatizing experience for us. I think a lot of times you hear the success stories with those kinds of things like, oh yeah, it was like 3 nights, a little crying, no big deal. And then it was done. That was not the case.
Right,
for
same.
For us at all. And now I know that was just because my son has a sensitive temperament and it just was probably the worst thing imaginable that we could have done. And yeah, so it was really difficult. We tried it a bunch of different times. It never worked. It just caused us so much stress. And so we eventually called it, and he was, like 9 months. We had just finished our last attempt. And I finally was like, you know what? He's only waking twice a night. I feed him. He goes back to sleep. Like, I can deal with that. It's not a big deal. Like, let's just stop this. I can't take it anymore. Yeah. And he started sleeping through the night on his own, and he self-weaned when he was 1, like right before his first birthday. And I was like, okay, I guess they really do just figure it out when they're ready. And so, yeah. So then when I was pregnant with my second, I was desperately seeking answers from a different point of view, because I was like, I just can't go through that again, but I also really don't want to be tired anymore. Like, that was really brutal. So that kind of started all of it.
Started all of it. Now, I understand what you're saying with my child was also, my kids don't need sleep. They just don't. Like, my husband doesn't either. They are up all night and wake up early. Like, this is just how we live. And I learned that pretty quickly, because your child's going to tell you what they need. So if you're listening to this thinking like, wait a minute, should I not have sleep trained? Is this bad? Like, if it worked for you, great, fine. There's like no judgment whatsoever, because if it wasn't going to work for your child, you would know it. You would feel it in your gut. Like, literally, your nervous system would be broken, and you would stop, and you would find something different for them. So, but the problem is not knowing what that something different is, and knowing that you're able to make that choice and that everything's going to be okay. So you went from the situation where you were terrified of getting off of a nap schedule, getting off of all of the not waking up at the right time, not sleeping at the right time. I mean, I was there too. But now you like go out to dinner, or you go out to friends, like you do things, and the baby sleeps and naps when or if they do. So can you talk to us how you got to that mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I think after you have your first, it's such a shame that you don't get to have the point of view that you get with second, third, whatever kids with your first, because with your first, it just feels like everything is so intensified. You feel like, this is my life forever now. Nothing is ever going to change. Nothing's ever going to get better. Nothing's ever going to get easier. And so it's really easy to kind of flip out about small things. And they don't feel small. When you're sleep deprived, it does feel awful and very intense. So I don't want to minimize that ever. But I think just once you get through it and you get to the other side and you see, okay, this actually is just a phase. This is like a couple tough months and I will get through it and survive. It's easier to just hold that so much more lightly when it's your second. So I just wish you could have that perspective with your first, to know that like really everything is a phase. It does pass. Even the really, really hard things go away eventually. And you will get to a spot that's a little bit easier and more manageable. But yeah, and then with your second, the other thing is you don't have as much control. Like, I think with your first, you think that you're going to have so much control, and some people maybe do. And for some people, that's just in their personality, that they really feel like they need that like strict nap schedule and a bedtime, and they need their evening to themselves and all of that stuff. They just hold it like really tightly. And then with your second, you just have to let it all go. Like you have to let at least a lot of it go, because now you've got not just your own needs to balance, but 2 little people. And yeah, you just don't have the time to be like thinking about nap schedules all day and wake windows and all of that. Like it just it very quickly becomes unimportant, I think, at least for me.
Yeah. And hopefully it does for everyone, because I mean, it's a tough position to be in no matter what you're in. But also to be holding onto this guilt and this anxiety is a lot. I want to hear about your transition to baby number 2, because you've already talked about how your first child has a unique temperament and it's a little tricky to navigate here sometimes. So how was that transition to having a second child?
Well, I think our transition to our second was very colored by the fact that she was born in 2020. So it was just a very difficult, isolating time to be postpartum. If anybody listening had a baby that year, you know, it was a lot. But overall, she was a much chiller baby. Like I actually loved waking up with her at night. It sounds like insane to say that, but I actually really enjoyed like her, waking up, grabbing her for a feed, listening to my audiobook or my podcast, snuggling with her, having just like that quiet time, just her and me. I actually really enjoyed it.
I can relate.
Sounds so crazy now. And then, I also but at that point, I was doing my first sleep certification to become a sleep consultant. And so I was learning so much about not just sleep, but like attachment and neuroscience and all of that. So I was really just learning so much applicable information that was helping me with my own kid at the time in real time, which was really, really cool. So there was a lot of good to it too, but overall I just learned how much personality and temperament really does play a role in everything, not just sleep.
Isn't it though? Oh my gosh. Yeah. The difference that of personality, you have no idea what human you're inviting into your life forever.
Yeah, it's so true. Everything, it's so true.
So I can relate so much to the first baby, especially when the temperament is trickier. You're like afraid to make eye contact with them in the middle of the night. Never mind, like turn on even the red light. And then the second baby, you're like, my baby was born in November. So I was watching Hallmark Christmas movies in the middle of the night.
Yes,
like that was the best. Like totally loved it. And we just rolled with it. We just made it happen. How was it for your oldest becoming a sibling?
It was actually okay. I was really, really nervous about it. And it was kind of funny. So they're like a little more than 2.5 years apart. Okay. So he had turned 2 in October and she was born like that late January. Or actually, so they're like 2 years, 9 months apart. And at first he was kind of just indifferent. Like he knew she was there. She didn't really add much to his life. She didn't really bother him either. So at first they kind of just coexisted and I was like fine with that. I wasn't going to push her onto him. I wasn't going to, force it. And then she started to move and mess with his stuff. Yep. And then their relationship got a little more contentious.
Yeah.
And luckily she was like a bruiser of a baby. So like she could handle it. But it was really tough there for a few months. And then it turned again. Like it's always changing. Yeah. When she turned 2 and she could communicate with him and talk to him and understand what he was saying to her, and she could play a little bit more, then they became best friends, and they still are. Like, they have so much fun together. They love each other so much. Of course they fight, they're siblings, but they share a room. Like, they just love being with each other. So I would say the transition overall was great. But it, you know, there were definitely moments where he was smacking her or annoyed that she was, you know, there or whatever. I think that's all just so normal.
I hope it's normal, because my house is like WrestleMania right now. Unbelievable.
Yes. Yep.
But it wasn't enough. Whatever it wasn't enough to stop you, because you went one more, right? So tell us about your transition to 3.
We did. Yeah. And we went for a little bit more of an age gap between 2 and 3. So we didn't actually even really start to think about having a third until my youngest at the time, my second, was 2. And, you know, we were very lucky to get pregnant very quickly after. We decided to start trying. So, you know, it just kind of happened. And so there's almost a 3-year gap between 2 and 3. And there's an exactly 5-year gap between 1 and 3. And that has been so nice. Like, that was such an easier transition. I'm all for the big age gaps. Like, I know people are worried about it and you can't always control it, but if you can, 3 years is a beautiful, beautiful age gap, because our oldest 2 were in school. The middle one was just in like a preschool. So it was only like 3 hours a day, but it still gave me time to just rest and chill with the new baby. And that was all really, really nice. And now it's kind of like the third just, you know, is the chillest and like the
You're
best.
here for the ride.
Yeah, she's just along for the ride. She's like so fun. And then my middle has turned into kind of like a floater. So she'll play with the older, because they're, you know, the big kids and they have a lot of similar interests. And then she'll also play with the baby. So she kind of just, the middle one just kind of like bops back and forth. So it's really cute and really nice now. But yeah, we went for the third. I mean, I've talked about this on my podcast too, like how we kind of came to that decision. Again, I've mentioned we have a lot of support. I don't think we would have done it. We live in the city, so it's very expensive and all of that stuff. Yeah. But we're very blessed to have my in-laws, who help us a lot. And I don't know that we would have went for it if we didn't have that extra support.
That makes a huge difference, to have people that can give you that relief and that reprieve so you can do things for you. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how your relationship has survived throughout all of this? Because that's a big part of who we are.
Huge. Yeah, I've talked about this on my podcast too, and I'm very open about this, and my husband is too. You know, after our first, a lot of people say that they really, really struggle after a baby, just full stop. It doesn't matter which baby. Yeah. After our first, we actually felt very bonded. Yeah. We really didn't. I mean, we would like get snippy with each other if we were tired or something, but our relationship really didn't take that much of a hit after our first, because again, we still had a support system. We were able to give each other breaks. And we just really loved like being a new little family together. And then with our second, this is something I tell parents too, like we really leaned into the divide and conquer mindset, where I was with new baby, he was with my toddler. Like, he fully took on my toddler's bedtime. He would take him out of the house so that I could rest with the newborn. We really just became like ships in the night, just kind of splitting up everything because we thought that was easier. And it worked, quote unquote, but what ended up happening was we became really, really disconnected. Oh, okay. And then through that disconnection, any little, you know, annoyance or resentment just feels so much more magnified because you are not connected. And so, yeah, our relationship really, really struggled a lot in that year of COVID and those couple of years after our daughter was born. And then we got into therapy. Yeah. Cannot recommend enough. We got into therapy when we were pregnant with our third because we really wanted to be proactive and work on ourselves before we had a new baby so that wouldn't happen again. And after our third was born, like, again, we've of course gone through times where we've been annoyed with each other, like whatever, like any other normal marriage, but overall we've been in such a better place.
But you have the tools, to get through it. So that's pretty incredible. You are so inspiring to like go ahead for the third. If you're on the fence, like it sounds like you've had a great experience with it. And talk about,
if anybody wants to be talked into it, I'm your girl, because I will talk you into having a third, like without question. It's been the best.
That's awesome. Now, I want to hear just a little bit about how you feel about yourself as a mom, as a person in this phase of your life with three very needy little ones under your care.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I feel I'm at like, kind of a high point in my career, and my kids are all like older and independent. Like I've recently stopped breastfeeding. I have my body back a little bit for the first time in 8 years. And so I really do feel like this is kind of like a turning point for me as Rachael. And that's exciting and that's really nice.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's been so lovely to get to know you as a person and as a mom and hear your journey and your wisdom. I hope that you'll come back for the next episode so we can learn more about your expertise in modern sleep, because we need a level head in this conversation.
Absolutely. Yes, I would love to.
So tell us about the supports that you offer families and where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on social media at Hey Sleepy Baby. My website is also just heysleepybaby.com. I've got lots of free info on there, some free guides you can download, tons of blog posts with tons of great information. I also have a podcast called No One Told Us, where I have experts that come on and talk about all different things, not just sleep. And we offer courses and workshops as well. So if you're going through something like wanting to move on from co-sleeping, wanting to get your child in their own bed, you're dealing with bedtime battles and you don't know why or what to do, I have courses on that. And then I also have consultations. So I have a whole team of incredible practitioners that will help you if you are really just stuck and want some hand-holding and want someone to tell you exactly what to do, and to also just give you like the support and kind of like what we were just saying, like just someone to talk to and vent to, and someone to reassure you that it's going to be okay, that you're normal, that you'll get through it. So all of that is available on my website too.
And your resources are so powerful. I took your sleep temperament temperament workshop when my first was little, and that was life-changing. It really changed so much. You. And I think I have a floor bed guide that I did at one point, a crib guide. So very, very realistic. Like you can open up the guide. It's not going to be like 50 pages that you have to weed through. It gives you exactly what you need, when you need it, where you need it. So check out those resources. Rachael is such a gift. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
In the next episode, Rachael's back and we're talking about something so many moms carry: the guilt and shame that shows up when sleep isn't going well. She's breaking down why it's not your fault, what's actually normal, and how to stop feeling like you're doing everything wrong. If you've ever cried at 2 a.m. wondering what you're missing, this episode is for you. There's a version of you that feels grounded, joyful, and more like you. The Mom Moment Memo helps you take steps towards her. Head to momidentityproject.com/memo or find the link in the show notes so you can join us. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to share it with a friend. You can also really help this podcast find the moms who need it by scrolling down and leaving a 5-star rating and a quick written review or a comment, or liking and subscribing if you're watching this on YouTube. I'd love for you to let me know your favorite part either through the reviews and comments or by DMing me on Instagram at momidentityproject. I can't wait to hear from you.